Want to hear the crazy part? Your CSA score is not adversely affected if you're violated for using additional equipment or accessories because it's 0 points towards your CSA. If you're busted for using a handheld mobile telephone or texting, it's 10 points. So if I can remove using a handheld mobile telephone or texting under the premise of using a GPS with my phone and even changing it to this section, I go from 10 points to 0, thus reducing my CSA score.
Wow. I'll give a hand clap to that.
Yeah.
John. What's going on, Mother Truckers? Welcome to Mother Trucker News. Please email us at muthatruckernews@gmail.com so that we can always help you guys out. For all the watchers, for all the listeners out there, we got our guy John back here, from Trucking Wins. We got to show him some love real quick. So I definitely want to show your website right here. Please introduce yourself. Let people know real quick what you are about and how you help truck drivers and trucking companies out. Let's go, brother.
All right. I appreciate you bringing me back on here. So John Seidel, owner of Trucking Wins. It's a website that has training videos. You go on, click on them. You watch all about split sleeper, personal conveyance, your big day, how to do a roadside inspection, bunch of information on there. I have a monthly podcast where if you're a member of Trucking Wins, you can come on and ask me questions anytime. So basically, I want to help truck drivers win at this game called trucking, and you need a DOT coach, and that's who I am.
How many years of being an ex-DOT were you?
I got you. Yeah. So I used to be a state patrol inspector for about 12 years. Then I was an investigator with the feds for about 8. Then I was a hazmat agent for 3. So 23 years, government regulator. I worked the scales. I knocked on company doors, did full reviews. So when it comes to that DOT number, I pretty much have your answer. Now I'm a DOT consultant providing this information through Trucking Wins. I also dabble in truck insurance a little bit.
Oh, that's good. That's good, brother. So let's add the screen right here and let's kind of show people what the heck are we looking at right now? What is a data queue?
Well, here's the deal. What you're looking at now is a roadside inspection that occurred at a company, right? What's a data queue, though? If you as a driver or if a trucking company has a driver pulled over and you get any violations that you think the officer is simply wrong, you can go onto an internet website called the data queue website. You can type a bunch of stuff in and attach documents and basically make an argument, kind of like you're going to court, even though you're not going to court. And you upload your argument, you upload the inspection, any supporting documents, pictures, regulations, anything you can do to say, you know what, officer, you're wrong. Now, in some cases, maybe the officer isn't like 100% wrong from a common sense perspective, but they try to push the envelope with the laws sometimes. And in this particular case, that's exactly what they did. So a data queue is where a trucking company or a driver, heck, drivers can even log and get their own password and do their own data queues. It's where you challenge the government, whoever pulled you over, and you can get those violations completely removed from your company's CSA score and from your PSP.
I love it. I love it. So let's get into a couple of these right here and let people know how crazy ridiculous this gets. And so that other people that are in the same situation, they might need to call you up. So, definitely John's a good friend of mine. He's here to help, and a lot of companies rely on him. So what's the one that we want to talk about today?
So I'm going to walk you through this real life data queue that happened to a driver. Let's skip the first violation a minute for using a handheld phone, because that's the one I challenged. This driver was simply driving over the 14-hour rule, and there wasn't much that they could do about that. And then they also didn't have their log current at the time of the stop. So not only wasn't their log current, they were also over hours. And when I looked at the logbook, man, the driver made a mistake. He's got to pay the price for these. But the first one, using a handheld mobile telephone while operating, the officer wrote a note that said, driver observed holding his phone in his hand, entering locations in the GPS. That violation is not supported by 392.82A1 in the regulation book. So what did I do? I immediately I immediately thought this inspection through and realized that entering GPS into a phone is not using a handheld mobile telephone. What you talking about, John? How is that not using a handheld mobile telephone?
Right. It sounds like you're being distracted by using a telephone.
Right.
I mean, they were driving. I mean, so tell me a little bit more about this.
All right. So what I immediately did is I popped up this, and I'm going to walk you through what the regulations say. And I'll give you a little time to comment in this, mother trucker. I'll tell you, it's pretty crazy. On this date, the driver was stopped. We already said they received a violation for using a mobile telephone. The officer said they were entering GPS. So now let's go to the government regulation. Heck, I didn't write this. I didn't publish this in the regulation book. Under the definition of using a handheld mobile telephone, what does the reg say first? Says no driver can use a handheld mobile telephone. Well, you would think him using GPS is using one. No motor carrier can allow him to use a handheld mobile telephone. But you see this term, use a handheld mobile telephone? People think they know what that means. So let's go through this. You got the notes that he put in. He was using GPS. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Number one, you see number one right here? Using a handheld mobile telephone. Was this driver using one hand to hold the telephone to conduct a voice communication? Yes or no? No.
No.
He was entering stuff in a GPS unit. That's not using a hand to hold it to conduct voice communication. Okay, let's go to number two. Was he dialing or answering the phone by pressing more than a single button? Dialing or answering? No. He was entering stuff in a GPS, right? Number three, was he reaching for it? Nah, the note said he already had it in his hand. So by the definition, again, I didn't make this up. Was this driver using a handheld mobile telephone?
Well,
No.
it doesn't look like it from, I mean, their rules.
Listen, and I didn't write the rules, and these are the words in the rules. You ask 99 people whether entering GPS is using a phone, they'd probably say yes. So then what did I type up? Our driver used a hand to hold it, but he wasn't conducting a voice communication. Our driver was not dialing or answering, and he already had it in his hand. So that is not using a handheld mobile telephone, right? So that's an interesting argument, isn't it? It may be unsafe, but you didn't cite me for the right section. Let's call it a technicality. Now, I'm not advocating typing into your GPS while you're driving down the road, and neither are you, right, mother trucker? No way, right?
I mean, put both hands on the wheel at all times, but in this situation.
Use hands-free. Enter your GPS ahead of time. However, when you're trying to control your CSA scores and keep your PSP clean, you can make a data queue challenge to remove a violation that may be cited incorrectly by the law, even if the law may not make any sense. Do you agree with the way the law is written? Maybe not, right? What do you think?
Right. No, I understand. But you know, they're following their rules, and you're following their rules too. So at the end of it all.
Yep. So now it says, well, what about texting? Could I write him up for texting because he was entering characters into the system? There's a federal register that FMCSA published, and this is what they wrote in there. While the definition of texting excludes inputting, selecting, or reading information from a GPS, FMCSA encourages you not to do it, right? So now this is a regulation also that says you can't get me for texting either. So did I use a handheld mobile telephone? No. Did I text into my telephone? No, because it says inputting stuff in a GPS is excluded. So now there is a section 390.17 in the Green Book. It says nothing says that you shall be construed to prohibit the use of additional equipment or accessories. Oh, so you can use additional equipment or accessories provided the equipment does not decrease safety. Now, the officer can make an argument and say, listen, this clearly decreased safety, right?
Right.
So what my argument in this data queue was, you can't write us for using a handheld telephone. You can't write me up for texting. You should write me up under this section. Want to hear the crazy part? Your CSA score is not adversely affected if you're violated for using additional equipment or accessories because it's 0 points towards your CSA. If you're busted for using a handheld mobile telephone or texting, it's 10 points. So if I can remove using a handheld mobile telephone or texting under the premise of using a GPS with my phone and even changing it to this section, I go from 10 points to 0, thus reducing my CSA score.
Wow. I'll give a hand clap to that.
Yeah,
John. So
you see that?
Here's my question to you is how many points do you get before they put you out of service?
Well, it's not an out of service thing. What it is this. Using a handheld mobile telephone or texting hurts your unsafe CSA score, right? It makes your CSA score go up, which could hurt a trucking company's insurance or getting loads or, getting investigations from the government. So the whole purpose of this data queue was to change the section to this section so I could reduce the CSA scores, right? Now, get this, though. This is the actual data queue request, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've had a problem in the state of Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've had a problem in the state of Georgia. And that problem is they don't agree, nor do they like the premise of getting rid of this under what I just said, right? Problem. Georgia, you don't make up the laws, you enforce them.
Right.
I just read the law to you. The law says it's not using a handheld mobile telephone. So what happened to start? They said, your request has been reviewed. It was determined that it was cited properly and not removed. Other states have removed it, but they didn't. I wrote, Georgia has denied too many of these. Given the officer notes regarding GPS, it's absolutely cited wrong according to the rules as I stated. I tried to call you in the past to no avail. I'm going to elevate this up to the Georgia Motor Carrier Division, the Georgia Division Office of FMCSA, FMCSA headquarters as needed. Please call me. So they called me. I explained the law just like I did to you. And look at this. The request was re-reviewed based on our phone conversation. We changed the violation. Boom, victory.
So he still got the violation, but it's 0 points.
Correct. So we as a trucking company, did we say, we won? No, we said, driver, stop putting that GPS in your hand. Driver, use hands-free. Don't do unsafe stuff like this. We may have even terminated the driver if we felt it was that bad, right?
Right.
But doing data queues isn't necessarily for right or wrong always. It's to control our CSA scores. So were we able to change the violation to the regulatory section that supports this violation, thus reducing our overall CSA scores? Yep. So sometimes that's the purpose of a data queue. Does that make sense?
Hey, I tell you, go to Trucking Wins, man. Man.
It's kind of funny knowing the regulations even more than they do can get these violations removed.